Hump day, guys. I'm ready for the weekend. Just thought I'd show you what I'm working on right now. Some of you might remember this, and most of you probably won't, but it's a Shorty 384 that I bought last year just before Christmas. I didn't make it. I got it off of eBay, but it kind of piqued my interest. So I got it home here, and the only way it would run was in reverse. The E unit was jammed up, so I got it loose and tried to get it to work, but part of that, the drum, the copper was peeling off. So I took this thing completely apart, took the E unit out of it, and I was going to put a manual unit in it, and I said, to hell with it. It doesn't have a coupler on the front. I'm not going to run it backwards. So I removed all the E units, wired it together, and off we went. But this is a pretty good unit, but it would bind up a little bit. It was tight when it ran, and it wouldn't do this. You couldn't push it like this. It would slide. It was too tight. So I tore the whole thing apart, and I had no idea how this thing was put together. I had no idea how he hung a motor in nothing more than a boiler. But he did a really, really cool thing. I'll see if I can show you. One-handed cameraman again. It's always a pain in the ass. This is a build-a-motor frame that he completely gutted, and he put an O-gauge motor in it with a reduction gear, and this thing is powered very much like a 42. It's only got one gear. It's only geared in the front, and the rods then transfer the power to the back wheels, which are just wheels. But what he did, and I don't think I can show it to you here, he put a slot in this frame, the same thickness as the boiler, and he slid the front of the motor, the front of the motor and the front of the engine connect together in the slot. And then on the back, he put this plate. The two screws on the side, they hooked to the cab, and the screw in the center, he fabricated a block, drilled it front and back, and threaded it. The side screw, of course, holds it to the frame, and this screw that you're looking at pulls the superstructure to the back, making sure that it locks into that slot. It's very simple, and it's something that I think I'm going to emulate. I like the way that works, and I've got, right now I'm thinking about building one of my own, but I'm going to use a full-fledged build-a-motor or super motor. This guy took and he put the cast iron wheels off of probably a 42, the earlier stuff, and drilled them out, and then set it up for the rods. And what I don't understand is the rod that's on the side, the outside rod is a production piece. The inside rod is a brass rod, drive rod that he fabricated. And he did a good job on it. But this outside rod is a 384. I don't know why he didn't use a 384 crank pin for that, because it worked. I've already tried it. It works. The problem of it was he fabricated his own type of crank pin, which was all right, but it let the rods slop back and forth a little bit, and he drilled and tapped it to a 632. Well, the crank pin on the 384 is bigger than that, so it didn't work. So what I did was I took care of the binding situation, took pretty good care of it, and then I fabricated this collar, which acts as the base on your crank pin. Now, there are, on the back side of this, there are two 632 brass nuts. And I tightened them up, and their outside diameter is a little bit more than the inside diameter of this, I think it's a 3/8 brass tube. So I turned it down. I put the pin in a drill, and I put it on high speed, and I knocked the edges off of the 6/32 nuts, and double nutting it allowed one nut to come through and ride right in that hole, so it kept it as like a solid unit. But it was also the brass nut was small enough that this would spin on there. And this is just wide enough that it rests up against the back of the pin. I don't know what this guy was thinking. I've never had a custom-made piece or even a modern-made piece where the damn nuts and screws were so tight that you couldn't get them, virtually couldn't get them off. I've never had, he didn't use any super glue or anything on them. He just tightened them down damn tight. And what I'm having a problem doing right now is getting the damn screw out of the back, because I don't want to use a latch coupler on this. I want to turn that bolt around and make it a stud so that I can hook up with a regular tender. But it's turned out real well. The other thing that I'm working on right now is my JAD. This back trailing truck, as you can see, it don't fit in the slot. And even when I've got one of these nibs, there it is. It's hard to see. I can't tell you which one it is. I got one on both sides. But the frame slips off. On the front, they bolted it. If I can't get this peened down to where it holds this frame tight, what I'm going to do is drill it out and put 4/32 or something like that in. I mean, I don't really understand why they drilled and tapped the front and they did this on the back. And the other thing is, I think the damn axle's too short, because even when I press the frame together, the wheels are tighter on one side than they are on the other. And I think what I'm going to have to do is fabricate another axle, just pull these wheels off and build an axle that will fit it right, put the wheels back on and slip it in, and I think I'll have the situation solved. It's minor. I got to be careful. This outside frame is aluminum, so if I go to peening these nipples very much, I'm going to dent something or break it. So I got to proceed with caution, because I'm not going to find any parts for this thing out there on the internet, at least not before I die. The other thing I'm working on or finishing up was my caboose. I don't know, you guys might be interested in these ideas or not. But on this one, I did the highlights with I did the ribs with a paint, not a paintbrush, but a paint marker. On this one, I took and I masked everything off and hand painted it. But these paint markers, and this is what it is, and the one I use is a wedge. This thing is very, very big. When you apply the wedge to the surface, a little bit of downward pressure allows paint to fill that nib. You don't want to do that very long, because if you push it down too hard, next thing you got is a pool of paint all over your project. I have done that, but not on my project, thank God, on things that I was practicing on. Sometimes I'll spray paint something like this. I have a scrap, and I'll set it all up, and I'll practice making these lines. And the best way to do that is, I've taken a piece of balsa. You lay it right there against where you want to mark it. You ride that nib up against the side of the balsa, and you pull straight down, and it makes nice, straight, clean lines. Every bit as nice as what they did back in the day. So that's what I'm up to right now. I'll show you how the engine runs. It'll make a liar out of me, I'm sure. Every time I do stuff like this, something goes haywire. But one of the things I like about it, now that I've got it loosened up, very little power to get it started, and when you kill the power, it will even coast, which it would not do before. It was just too darn tight. So here we go. It's not a bad running little engine. That's a crap hookup with the tender. I think I bought that tender specifically for this engine. But quite honestly, I've got an original Lionel that is more to the proper size of it. More proportionally correct. It's an old slope back. So I'll see what I'm going to do. I don't know. I may use it. I may just stay with this. Now see, it coasted some. It wouldn't do that before because it was too tight. All right, guys. That's it for the day, I think. So we'll see you next time. Be safe out there. Toodaloo.